Okay, guys, I'm going to play this by ear. And you know what? That ain't never good. All right, so take your Bibles and open them with me, please, to Exodus chapter 20. Exodus chapter 20. This thing's turning into Revelation. All right. Exodus chapter 20. We were down at the verse that talks about thou shalt not kill. And we talked about thou shalt not commit adultery. All right. And for some people, they think that this idea of immorality is Old Testament, because the law is Old Testament. Now, I hope you haven't learned anything else by now. You've realized that, guess what? The law, the Ten Commandments, are not Old Testament. They are New Testament. Okay, so we'll touch on this for just a couple of slides, and then we're going to move on. It says, in 1 Thessalonians chapter 4, verses 3 through 5, it says, "For this is the will of God, even your sanctification, that you should abstain from fornication, that every one of you should know how to possess his vessel in sanctification and honor, not in the lust of concupiscence, even as the Gentiles which know not God." Old or New Testament?
Old. That's the New Testament.
Is that Old Testament?
Yeah, read it once.
Old or New Testament?
Both.
It's New Testament. It's both. It's absolutely both. But he says this. Now I want you to look at verse 1. He says, "This is the will of God." What is the will of God? Your what? Okay? Your sanctification. What is sanctification?
Here.
Okay? As we walk with God, what happens? We draw closer and closer, and we begin to look more and more like Him. Is that not right? So he says, God's will is that you be sanctified, which means you can't live any old way you want to. Right? What's the very first thing he says after he says, God wants you to be sanctified? Flee what? Or abstain, I'm sorry.
Immorality.
From fornication. And what is that? Does anybody know? That's sexual immorality outside of marriage. Is that not right? Or any sexual immorality really will fill that. And what I'm trying to get you to understand is that we talked about this sin being one that is rampant in our society. Matter of fact, it ain't even looked at as a sin anymore. Matter of fact, actually, if you're not doing something on the side, you ain't much of a man. You know how stupid that is, but that's the way society has done it. And then we want to know why, our daughters and our children and our granddaughters have got 14 children by 13 different people. Wonder where they learned that at. Say amen. Okay? So, is it the physical act of adultery that he's talking about here, or is it the mental?
Both.
It's both, absolutely. Where does it start? It always starts in the mind. Is that not right? We're going to find that out about stealing too here in just a few minutes, okay? It says, Matthew 5 and 27 and 30 says, "You have heard that it was said by them of old time," Old Testament, "Thou shalt not commit adultery. But I say unto you that whosoever looketh on a woman to lust after her hath committed adultery with her already in" where?
His mind.
Now he goes on to say this, "If thy right eye offend thee, pluck it out, cast it from thee. For it is profitable for thee that one of thy members should perish, and not that thy whole body should be cast into hell. And if thy right hand offend thee, cut it off and cast it from thee. For it is profitable for thee that one of thy members should perish, and not that thy whole body should be cast into hell." What's he saying? First part's easy. Okay? What's he saying? So if my right hand offends me, I should chop it off. All right? If my right eye offends me, what should I do? What is he saying? Well, one, how important it is, absolutely. But what else? What's he really saying in those other verses? To start with, he says what? That adultery isn't just the very act of it, but it is what? Starts here. Now, stop and think about that for a minute and what that says for the society in which we live in. Because guess what? Everything we have is instant. Even sin is instant. Pornography is everywhere. You've got a phone on your hip that can get on the internet. All the filth of the world is right there on your hip. Say amen. So he says, hey, if you do it up here, don't go around all pious and self-righteous and say, well, I ain't never been with nobody else. Because if you've done it up here, guess what? You're just as guilty. Okay? But then he goes on to say this whole chop your hands off and stuff. Now, you know, I don't know if you've ever been to the Middle East or if you've ever watched any documentaries on the Middle East, but you know, if they catch you stealing over there, you know what they do? They'll cut your hand off. And if they catch you twice, guess what? You'll be picking your nose with your elbow. Because they'll cut your other hand off. And they don't care whether you got a big, they don't care how you got a big one. You know what I'm saying? Because that's what they do. Is that what he's talking about here?
Ain't gonna work.
All right. Put yourself in that situation. Anybody else?
That makes sense.
I don't have anything to do with people who do. Good old born in five theology. That'll work. Nip it in the bud.
Sitting here working on it.
Anybody else?
Oh, okay. Oh, I didn't know that.
Anybody else?
See, I can't get it through here.
What about this? It is a concept that, guess what? What we consider to be a little thing can consume the whole. See? Because sin starts off as a little thing. It never starts off as I'm going to go out and kill the whole world. You know what I'm saying? The guy that shot up all the people in Las Vegas. The guy that shot up the people in the church. Where do you think that began? Don't you think that they rehearsed that over and over and over and over again? See what he's saying? If you let it seep in, what happens? You're in danger of it consuming the whole body. And he said what's going to happen is if you don't deal with it when it's little, the danger is the whole body may wind up in hell. Better that you sacrifice a body part, as serious as that may be, in order to bring you around to the right way of thinking. Does that make any sense? Or did it confuse you? Getting a lot of those 50-mile stairs. Okay. We're going to pull up out of here and we're going to go to verse 15 now. Okay? Can somebody read me verse 15 and their outside voice? You shall not steal. Okay. Thou shalt not steal. What does it mean to steal? Take something that don't belong to you. I can go with that. That's pretty easy. William Barclay wrote this in his commentary on the Old Testament. I thought it was pretty interesting. He said, stealing is a natural sin. It is human nature to want what we have not got. And the desire may turn to action. And when it does, a man may steal. We do not need to argue about the righteousness of the commandment. Everyone agrees that stealing is wrong. Would you say that's a true statement?
It's a little sin.
Okay. Is there such a thing as a little sin?
Oh, yes.
Right? And I understand what you're saying, Gail. But my question is this, all right? He says that everybody would agree that stealing is wrong. Is that a true statement?
Yes.
I don't think it is. You remember the guy that got shot and his mother got on TV and said, well, he wasn't doing that but stealing something. And that's how he made his living. He stole stuff. Right? You know the Somali pirates? I don't know if y'all are familiar with that. You remember the movie they made about the guy, the captain that went over there and finally got some backbone and shot them people up? That's a way of life for them. That's how they live. They just go out there and commandeer. I ain't never figured out how a boat that's as long as one of these pews could take a ship that's 150 bazillion tons. But I'd run him over. That's all it is.
And it may be something I have to read.
But anyway, so for some people, I think stealing is a way of life. Now let me ask you this. What about the people?
That doesn't make it right, though.
No, I didn't say it was right.
Okay.
I just said this. Barclay says, and of course you got to remember now, he wrote it at the turn of the century. Okay? And I would think in his day and time, in his culture, that probably was a true statement then, that everybody did think that stealing was wrong. But today, man, I don't know about today. Today, I have to think about that. I don't think everybody, I don't think you can make that general statement. I would say this, I think God-fearing people would believe that stealing is wrong.
This
Right.
wire coming from there, that's working because you get internet over there. You got a wire coming to here, it's feeding the internet here.
There you
You
go.
got this going out to here.
Remember what we wound up with, what were we discussing? Oh, that's right, that's when we found out that Miss Nancy had some people in her shed back there.
It's,
Remember when we talked about the idea that how hard it was when, for seniors, you know what I'm saying, if they were trying to get remarried again, they would start cutting Social Security and, you know, they had to choose between one benefit or the other. And
I'm afraid of this because I'm afraid of the long. But this is,
what I, there it is, okay? And we talked about what a dilemma that was. It was a real problem. Well, I think that this is the
maybe
same
be
thing.
rebooted.
I don't think that this is as cut and dried as it used to be, or as it should be.
I don't think it'll.
It should be easy, right? But today, I'm not sure about that. Because, listen to this,
Well,
all
I
right?
already got a warning that.
Does God pre-wire us that way? All right? God created man to do what? Even Adam, when he put him in the garden, what did he do? He said, I put you here to tend it. Is that not right? Okay, so he gave him a job. So if that's a true statement then, that God made us a working being, then working beings naturally desire to work, produce, achieve, accomplish, possess. Do you think that that's a true statement?
Her email's not working.
I do. I do think it is a true statement. And so when people look at, and they say, well, is it bad then to look at something and say, gee, I'd like to have one of those? Now, I got some folks in my family that probably ain't much, they're just about one step above poor as a church mouse. And they talk about buying one of them German Mercedes or something like that. And buddy, that drives my mom, I don't know why it would, the German Mercedes are made in Germany, but anyway, that drives my mom just right up to the flagpole. I ain't kidding you, that just, why do people desire things they can't have? And let me back up. Is it wrong?
No.
It's not wrong until what happens? Until the desire takes over and it becomes what? Covetousness. Okay? Met a guy at the gas station.
Probably gonna correct it.
He had a 57 two-door Bel Air, and he had a 71, 72 Chevrolet Nova. And brother, you could eat off of both of them. He was driving one, his wife was driving the other.
Hardwired, yeah. This is hardwired.
I mean, Chuck and Ray, it was beautiful. I said, dude, you got way more guts than I got. Of course, when he squatted down, his shirt jacket back came back, and I saw that 9mm there, and I thought, I can understand now why he's carrying a gun. But I said, I could never drive one of those things to Walmart and get out and go inside and go buy a Coke. Because you know what would happen? Somebody would drag a key down. You know why? Not because they would ever work and sacrifice like this man and his wife did to have that, but because they want it and they don't want them to have it. See, they're too sorry to work for it, to sacrifice, and I can guarantee you, cars like that, brother, you're sacrificing. Those things take years to build. But the thing about it is this. Is it wrong to look at that and say, man, that's a pretty car?
It did go.
You know what I'm saying? But, well, to destroy this, but what I'm trying to tell you is this. There are people out there who would say, I want that car. Not like you and I would say, man, that'd be a nice car to have. But are saying, guess what? And this is how I'm going to get it. I'm going to follow you to the house. You know what I'm saying? And the first time I can catch you gone, sometimes maybe I don't have to catch you gone, I'm going to get it. What I'm trying to point out to you is this. Wanting something, there's no sin in wanting something. There's no sin in desiring to do better. If that were the case, then if you went to work, what would you say? You'd be like 90% of these other deadheads out here. Do-de-do-de-do. Where's my paycheck at?
I
You
got
know, I interviewed a lot of people. I fired a lot of
I
people.
went to house.
You know what I found out? There's a lot of, very few people want a job. Most of them want a position. They want a place where they can stand right there. They want to come to work at 11, get off at 11:15 for lunch, come back at 3 and go home at 3:15. That's exactly what they want. And you know what? They want to draw a top salary. But the idea is when you say, well, gee, man, I need you to work. Man, I ain't got time for that. But if man is a working being and he is hardwired to work, to achieve, what will he always try to do? He will try to achieve better. You know what I'm saying? I mean, does that mean, hey, I got to stay at work later? Does that mean I got to work in the snow? Yeah. Yeah, if you're going to get ahead, you got to do all those things, and you got to be willing to work hard. And everybody here that's worked in any size of an organization knows that there are people that you can count on, and they're the go-to people. When you got a jam, they're the people you call. Well, not everybody is that. Okay? We're all required to accomplish. So if God plants that desire within us,
I'm gonna be here in the morning anyway.
so and we desire what we don't have, then are these desires normal and natural?
Yeah.
Okay? So, is there a legitimate way to meet that desire? What's the legitimate way? Oh my goodness, that 4-letter dirty word.
Actually, it keeps you young.
Okay, you can shut it down. Miss Lee came in there right after Christmas and broke the whole meeting up. All right? So if the legitimate way is to work to get it, is there an illegitimate way? And what is that?
Take it.
It's to steal it. That's exactly right. Now, why do you think, well, since I don't have a tablet up there. So, is stealing an action or a heart problem? It's partly both, but it begins where? Just like with everything. It begins in the heart, okay? He says, but every man, this is James, he says, but every man is tempted when he has drawn away of his own lust and enticed. Then, when lust hath conceived, it bringeth forth sin, and sin when it is finished bringeth forth death. Did you notice the progression? What is the progression?
Temptation.
Okay, temptation, but give me break it down even further than that. What is it? You look at it, all right? When you're tempted, you're drawn away of what? Your own lust. And what is lust? That's a desire. Is that a desire that's out of control? Okay? All right? Then what happens? After you lust after it, what happens? You're enticed. What does that mean? Anybody know? Well, how about this? All right? If it's in your brain and you're rehearsing it in your brain, what do? You say, hey, I could get this if I did that. Hey, you begin to, I call it study on it. Y'all ever done that before? I'm not talking about just to see. I'm talking about, you ever done that when you get to worry about something and you just study on it? And the more you study on it, what happens? The worse it gets. Is that not right? I don't know about y'all. Man, I used to I hate for somebody to say, I didn't talk to you. Tell me about what you need to talk to me about. I don't need you to call me over there and shoot me in the back when I'm not looking. What do you want to talk about? Okay? But the idea is that guess what? When we study on it, what's happening? The devil's got a foothold, doesn't he? And what is he doing? He's saying, well, this wouldn't be that bad. Well, we rationalize sin all the time. Well, it wouldn't. What would it hurt for you to get that? Well, I mean, everybody takes paper from work, right? Everybody gets a pen every now and then. Why, they leave them pens up there for you to steal. Y'all ever heard that before? You ever been to a bank where the pen's on a chain? Ernie, y'all did that so people would steal them, did you?
Credit union's got.
You been in, you ever been in one of them, it's usually in one of them like sandwich shops or something, and the pen has got something awful, ugly, big feather or something taped to it. That's so you don't stick it in your purse and run down the street with their ink pen. But it won't, it's not going to hurt anybody, right? See, that's what the devil does. He begins to say, well, you know, it ain't that much. It's not, what's ink pen worth? Why, a little bit of paper or toner or whatever. What about this? Can we steal time?
Yes.
Sure you can.
Absolutely.
How can we do that?
Fire people.
Yeah, on your time sheet. Or some salary.
Spoken like a true former government employee.
You ever seen these people on the highways? They're all standing around watching one person work.
Yeah.
I was with an equipment salesman one time, and he told this was true. He was down in South Georgia, and he was with the road superintendent, and they were going to look at a piece of machinery or something. And they said they got out there and said the two-way radio come across two-way radio. Man called him up. He said, yeah. He said, the little foreman on the crew said, I hate to tell you, boss, said, we done come off from the barn and we done forgot all the shovels. What do you want us to do? He said, the man turned around and said, hey, said, y'all lean on one another till I get there. Yeah, you can steal time. But here's the deal. When you begin to study on it, then what happens? What is the progression? Then when lust finishes, it conceives, it brings forth what? Death. And once sin is there, what's the next step? Death, always. Starts in the heart, starts in the mind, then it winds up in action. Okay? I must have missed a slide somewhere. Anyway, we'll work. Stealing firsts, okay? And this ain't first base either, by the way.
Actually, the
First sin mankind ever committed was what?
lie.
Was it, what did you say, Ken?
I said it's a lie.
You said it's a lie.
The first sin was a lie.
Okay.
I say, stealing.
It was stealing.
God told don't
Because God said what?
Don't take nothing.
Don't do that, right? Now listen, remember the progression that we just went through? Right? See it, begin to think on it, turns into an action, then what happens? Brings death. Listen to this. All right? And when the woman, that's Eve, saw the tree was good for food, and that it was pleasant to the eyes, and the tree to be desired to make one wise, she took, that's that word right there, she took of the fruit thereof and did eat, and gave also unto her husband with her eyes, and he did eat. Now, remember what I told you about rationalizing? She said, the woman, remember a guy by the name of King David? And a young lady by the name of Bathsheba? When all the men were out at war, which where David should have been, what was he doing?
Lusting.
Up on top of the roof, looking at some lady taking a bath. Is that not right? Now, somebody's going to say, why in the world was the lady on top of the roof taking a bath? Anybody got any ideas for that? Because that's the only way they can heat the water. That's exactly right. Up on the roof. Okay? He saw her. He began to inquire about her. What's the next thing? He takes her. Is that not right? Okay? Do you see this here? She saw it. Remember, it said, when you were drawn away of our own lust, and we are enticed, what did she say? Hey, that tree was what? That tree was good for food. And not only that, guess what? It must have had bling on it, because what did she say? It's even pleasant to look at, isn't it? And isn't sin on the outside pleasant to look at?
Yes.
I'm going to tell you what. You drink about 47 of them six-packs every week, and you know all them people on the beach hopping around, jumping around, like that. But isn't it interesting, they don't take a bunch of old fat balding people out there with big old beer guts, which is what that produces, and say, here's how you're going to wind up. They say what? See all these little 12-year-olds we got jumping around it? That's what you're going to look like. Not.
No, that's what they're saying when you drink that much.
I guess you can see anything. But the idea, what I'm trying to tell you is that guess what? There is a progression to the way sin works. And, the Bible tells us, Paul said, that we need to be aware of the wiles or the darts of the devil. Because I can assure you, he has a strategy. You may not have one the way you're going to live. He has a strategy.
That's right.
Yeah, one of those. Oh, that is statistics. Oh, I get it. All right? When they came into the promised land now, God said, come on in here. Very first sin, once they got to where God told them they ought to be, was what? Stealing. Joshua 7:21, when I saw among the spoils, this is Achan now. When I saw among the spoils goodly Babylonish garments, 200 shekels of silver, and a wedge of gold of 50 shekels weight, then I, see the progression again? Saw it, coveted them, and took them. And behold, they are hid in the earth in the midst of my tent, and the silver under it. Now I want you to notice something about this. Okay? Because what you're going to find out if you go to Joshua chapter 7 and read that, anybody know how that account ends? Not good for Achan. But not only not good for Achan, but guess what? Achan's entire family died because he said, I'm going to steal this. And he didn't just say, I'm going to steal it.
I'm so glad I
He
took
saw
my
it.
paper and stuff to the perfect.
He coveted it, and then he took it. Make any sense? Yeah. It's the first sin to defile the early church. This is in Acts chapter 5, verses 1 through 3. It says, but a certain man named Ananias, with Sapphira his wife, sold a possession. Now, anybody remember what's going on? They're selling all their stuff off so they can do what? They can support one another. That's exactly right, okay? Because the persecution is going on, and they're going to support all the people who don't have anything. Right? So Ananias and Sapphira see that and say, hey, these people are the ones that are going to be out front. Hey, these are the ones that they're calling on to pray. Hey, these are the ones whose name is in the bulletin. So they said, we want our name in the bulletin. He says, sold a possession and kept back part of the price. His wife also being privy to it, and bought a certain part and laid it at the apostles' feet. But Peter said, Ananias, why hath Satan filled thine heart to lie to the Holy Ghost, and to keep back a part of the price of the land? They did what? They stole it. That's exactly right. They stole it because what were they saying? I'm going to give you all this money, but what were they doing? The other $10 is going where? Now, anybody know how this story winds up? What did remember when Sapphira came in after that, they toted down Ananias' house. You remember what Peter told her? Said the feet of the ones that toted your husband out are waiting for you, and she fell dead too. That stealing is something that God takes pretty seriously. Why do you think he takes it so seriously? Because today, if somebody doesn't use a gun and they just steal something and they don't kill anybody or beat anybody up, we just call him a common thief. He's just a common thief. Is there anything common about theft? Not in God's economy. Well, why then does God seem to put so much in? Remember, 10 Commandments. Document for all of society. Why would theft be in there? It's a progressive sin. I go with that. Anybody else? Now I know all of y'all didn't eat too much for Christmas. And we ain't got no visitors, so y'all can't act like y'all are shy. Nobody. What about this? If we're beings at work, is that not right? What then should we have the right to do? To keep the fruit of your labor, is that not right? I mean, it would be, it's bad enough that the government comes in and tries to get 30% of the fruit of your labor, okay? But you should be able to keep it, is that not right? If somebody's stealing it, how can you keep it? What's the point in working if they're stealing it away from you every time you work? Why do you think communism doesn't work? Socialism doesn't work. It just doesn't work. It's not human nature for it to work. But that's not all. Think about this for a minute. How about you preserve the peace within a society and between neighbors? You ever thought about that? What would your neighbor do to you if he saw you pushing his lawnmower out from under his building over to your house?
Sammy shoot me.
Might die of lead poisoning, wouldn't you? Right? Probably rightly so. So here's the deal. What about this? What about if we just said, you just take whatever you want to? Would not places become armed camps? They're almost there now. Now, I go you one step further. I never understood when I was a child, and I don't know what it is about people in Alabama, but people in Alabama have 5 freezers. And you could put 3 bodies in each one of them. But every one of those chest freezers they had a lock on it. Now, why in the world would you put a lock on a chest freezer? Because you know what my grandfather told me? There's coming a day when people are going to steal food. It's going to be that bad. And we're that close now. Not because people are in need, but because people are too sorry to grow it themselves. Say amen. There is a balance and a peace in society. And to keep that peace, you've got to be able to keep what you've earned. And you shouldn't have to worry about somebody stealing it. Right or wrong. Now think about this for just a minute. We also should not have to worry about thievery, because when we earn something, the Bible says we should be willing to give to those who are in need. Listen to this. Ephesians 4:28 says, "Let him that stole steal no more, but rather let him labor, working with his hands, the things which is good, that he may have to give to him that" what? Now he says, guess what? Not only are we to work, not only are we to take care of our families, but what else are we supposed to be able to do? We're supposed to be able to help other folks around us. Is that not right? Now, you know, we talked about today, I didn't realize this, but Ernie Glover and them, they lived up in the Adirondacks. Is that right, Brother Ernie? Yeah. And they walked uphill to school in the snow both ways.
Ron did that.
Oh, is it Brother Ron? Brother Ron said he didn't walk uphill, he had to walk around the mountain. It was so steep, you couldn't even go straight up. And you ask yourself, you know, you say, wow, seemed like everybody and his brother wasn't standing around at the mailbox waiting for a paycheck to get there. You know why that was? Because when a family fell on hard times, guess what everybody in the community did? They helped them. Now, you know what? It may not have been what you wanted to eat, but it was something to eat. It may not have been what you particularly wanted to wear. Color may not have matched your eyes, but you'd be warm. Amen? See, we don't do that today. Today we expect the government to do it for us. And the government wants to do it for you. Right. So that you can be absolutely dependent on them. So whatever they say, you can't argue with. There are some dangers in not working. Okay, listen to this. This is in 2 Thessalonians chapter 3, verses 10 through 12. And Paul writes this: "For even when we were with you, this we commanded you, that if any would not work, neither should he." Knocks a hole in the EBT card all the way around. If you're able to work and you don't work, what?
Don't eat.
Hate it. Hate those 15 children that are running around. Ain't going to eat either. Is that right? I get off that soapbox. For we hear that there are some which walk among you disorderly, working what? Not at all. Sound familiar? But are, I can assure you, when you roll up on an area and there are 14 between 20 and 35-year-old men standing out there on the corner, guess what?
There ain't no work going on.
I don't believe much work going on, okay? And if there's not work going on, what's going to happen? Because your mama told you this the whole time you were growing up. Idle hands. Now, brother, that might be concordance page 7. But it ought to be in there somewhere, because that's exactly what he's saying. Because you won't work, what do you have time to do? I just read it to you. You can walk all around the church. Boy, you can tell whatever the people ought to be trying to do. You know, I haven't met a person yet that talks about all the hypocrites in the church that ever goes to church. But they won't tell you about all the hypocrites in the church. He said this. Look at verse 3. Or 12, rather. Now them that are such we command and exhort by our Lord Jesus Christ, that with quietness they work and do what? How come they're busybodies? We had a lady that we used to know, a friend of ours. I won't mention any names. And they used to, and we were just all the time. They were either at our house, we were at their house. And she informed my wife that they were renting a place over here in Columbia County somewhere. And that she could never live in McDuffie County because the drugs were so rampant. And that she wanted her kids to go to Columbia County schools. Now, one of her children didn't finish school at all. Now, here's the deal. You know what you find out about drugs? You know where drugs are the most rampant? You have to have disposable income. In other words, you got to have money that you ain't paying to eat and buy sneakers and put shoes on your back. Now, when you got an extra 50 or 20, guess what that kid's fixing to do? Who do you think the kids are that have the most disposable income? The people who are the most affluent. Is that not right? Think about it for a minute. It was there. She just chose not to see it. Now think about that for a minute now. Because the reality is that guess what? Sin is everywhere. Say amen. Nod your head. Say, what he said here was, guess what? If you got idle time, what are you going to do? You're going to be a busybody. But if you're working, what happens? I ain't got time for all that noise. I got stuff I got to do. Right? I'm focused on what I need to do. But if you're just sitting around twiddling your thumbs, guess what? You're going to find that you're going to become a social activist or something. Amen? There is a danger to not working. And I hate to say it, but our nation misses this point on a regular basis. That, you know what I'm saying? Now, there was an amendment, or not an amendment, there was some legislation about having people work if they got, government assistance. You'd have thought that it was going to be World War III. They marched on every state capital and what, you ain't going to make us work. There's the danger. You see it? Right? And God warned us about it. And let me tell you something. If they ain't got it and the government don't provide it, guess what's going to happen? They'll steal it. That's exactly right. They'll steal it.
And if they're not working in an arrest, they're stealing from us.
Might be. Well, we can't say that because we can't drain the swamp because we don't have enough barrels to pull all them people in. The clock on the wall says, I did that on purpose. The clock on the wall says it's time for us to go.
Where's the clock on the wall?
I'm gonna stop. Yes, ma'am. It's, right there. You know, it's bad when Miss Carol stands up and starts stabbing on the clock face.
Oh, way over there,
But, anyway, it really isn't Miss Carol that I'm afraid of, although I am afraid of Miss Carol. I'm more afraid of my wife. And I know they got munchkins over there, so you know what I'm saying, you gotta go over there with it. So are there any questions? Did I really confuse you? Am I just a horrible, evil person? You don't want to hear what I think about some other stuff, believe me, you don't want to hear that. All right? But it is the idea that, see, when we try to do it any other way than God's way, it's upside down in the ditch. And then when it catches on fire, we say, what happened? You didn't do it my way. Don't ever let anybody tell you that the Old Testament is irrelevant. Because you will hear that very much, not only inside or outside the church, but inside the church, especially when it's a social issue. And I'll give you one. You know what I'm saying? And again, I'm not criticizing anybody. I'm just give you one. And one of them is tattoos. Because everybody that has one, the first thing they will do is say, I know what it says in Leviticus, but that's Old Testament. If that's the case and you can make that statement, then you can pick and choose. That means you can pick and choose the 10 Commandments, doesn't it? Anyway. Happy New Year. I ain't here yet, but it's coming. And hopefully the deacons will let me stay here for another year. All right?